Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we use our extendable arms for some socially distanced hugs to comfort each other in the wake of the ARMS graphic novel cancellation. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the latest NPD numbers and the announcement of a new Ninja Turtles game. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about entry points for Nintendo series. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't believe the time is finally here for us to choose a winner of the Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore giveaway. Although not right now, in a second, in a little bit.
Mark, I mean, what that that's an amazing tease for something that's going to happen in like a minute. I love it. But you're doing so good. Everyone's doing so good. It is look, I know we've long since gotten rid of the weather report, but rainy and cold here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean it's fitting. I don't know. It's been rainy and cold, which has me thinking back to this time last year when it was rainy and cold, and we were just getting used to pandemic life. And now it's like, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? It almost seems unbelievable.
It does almost seem unbelievable, but I think we're getting there. I believe we are right around the 1 year anniversary of us first recording episodes remotely. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's something that we've all slouched into, and Sarah and I were just talking about this, that it happened so suddenly, right? That like everything shut down and we just like stopped seeing people. And it's all going to come back so slowly, and every step of it is going to be hard and weird and scary, right?
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting, but exciting.
Speaking of interesting but exciting, my copy of Sonic Forces, would you like to borrow it? It's my copy of the Nintendo Switch game. You can try. All you gotta do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And provide us with a mailing address where I can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It doesn't cost you anything. There might be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there, and that's just the thing that happens. It can't be predicted by anyone except for possibly me. No one can make any requests, even including myself, as to when the Goose Game goes out and when the Sonic Forces goes out. It is beyond... it is in my control, but beyond my decision-making ability. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. I'm 100% on board.
Mark, thank you. We are also now... We have reached the end of our month-long thing where you can enter to get a copy of Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. I don't want to call it Encore. Sorry, my bad. I don't want to call it a contest because it's not a contest. We're just giving away a copy, a code. And people did so by writing in, telling us what their Mirages would be. Mirages, of course. Mark, can you walk us through what a Mirage is?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a your avatar in battle. So basically, it's like you don't know that you're someone who like can have a connection with Mirages, but then suddenly you do. And I think actually they call you a Mirage Master. I finished playing this game like a little over a week ago, and already it is slipping from my brain like so much like slime. But yeah, so like you're a Mirage Master, and a Mirage is like somebody from a different in the game. A Mirage is somebody from a different universe, who an alternate reality, who imbues you with power. And so it's kind of like your avatar, somebody who would lead you in battle, somebody whose attributes you might take on in battle.
Right. So thank you to everyone who wrote in telling us who your Mirages would be. I love all of them. Everyone did a great job. Should we read through some highlights and then announce the winner? Should we read through highlights, announce our own Mirages and then announce the winner? That's
Yeah.
the order.
Yeah, let's do the second one. And also important to note that
Yes.
the winner was not picked by whose Mirage we liked best. The winner was picked randomly.
Yeah. Yes. At random. At random. So one Mirage here that I wanted to shout out was Alana, who wrote in saying, "My Mirage would absolutely, positively, 100% without a doubt be Jerry Garcia of the American rock and roll jam band, The Grateful Dead. Why? Because when I'm elbows deep in a heady 20-minute jam, there's nothing I can't accomplish. Also because I really feel like no one else would choose him. Being a Nintendo fan and a Deadhead is not very common intersection of interest for people, you know? Thanks for the opportunity to be silly and also for the chance to win a cool game, Alana." It's a good pick. A musician is a good pick.
That is a good pick. And I would actually love to know what the intersection of Deadheads and Nintendo fans, specifically the intersection of Deadheads and Nintendo fans who also listen to this podcast.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to say that she is a Deadhead, but frequent guest on the show, Ryan Mogi, comes from a family of Deadheads. She's sort of like a reluctant Deadhead. That's like it's part of like her family culture, but she doesn't like it.
That's amazing.
Which I always think is incredible. So thank you, Alana. Very nice work there. Another one that I just wanted a quick shout out, and there's not too much written here, but from Daniel. Daniel writes, "My Mirage would definitely be a Magikarp. We are both equally skilled in combat," which I think is very cute and very funny. Let's see. And then the next one I wanted to highlight was Juno. Juno wrote, "My Mirage would be Chase McCain from Lego City Undercover." Mark, this is not really a character that I'm super familiar with.
No, not at all.
But I do think it's hilarious that he's the movie or the game is like an action movie pastiche, and that the character's name is McCain being so close to McClane is very funny to me.
Yeah.
But so Juno writes in with 4 bullet points. 1, I love Lego bricks and anything adjacent to the Lego group. 2, I love video games, and he's a video game exclusive character. Great point. Number 3, I love Nintendo, and there's Nintendo exclusive content in the game. Another good point. And final point is I'm a Wii U apologist, and the game was exclusive to that system for several years. As another Wii U apologist, I feel that. I feel that one, Mark.
It's a good pick. It
is a good pick. And then the last one I wanted to shout out here was Christian, who wrote in saying, "So Patrick was my Mirage. Legitimately, that's the joke I had. But I feel he's pretty adamantly denied the position, so we have to move on to interview other candidates." That's true. I believe there was an episode where I said that I would not be anyone's Mirage.
That's right. You refused.
I've refused. Christian says, "A close second for me would have to be Andrew Jackson. He was a president. He got in a duel, was shot in the heart, and still won the duel, and just lived with that bullet in his heart, and then brought a giant cheese wheel into the White House just because he thought it would be fun. That's the kind of power I'd like in a Mirage." I mean, the reasoning is sound. I think there's a lot more to Andrew Jackson than just losing a duel and having been shot in the heart. That would maybe make him like a lousy Mirage. But worth shouting out, and a fun little bit of U.S. history there. Mark, which of course brings us to the question of who would your Mirage be?
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: have you put any thought into who your Mirage is, or is this? Are we? You have?
I did think about it. Yeah. I'm coming prepared, and my answer is, I think, very clearly going to be. Oh my god! Oh, Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote. I blanked for just a second, and it was horrifying. That was so scary.
That was incredible. I saw your soul leave your body.
That was so scary.
Over Zoom.
Yeah. Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote. May I be so lucky to have her confidence, her poise, her cunning. Yep. I mean, and then if I was going to pick a video game character, so I guess I have 2. Like, if we're like, Jessica Fletcher, no. But how about Slippy Toad? Yes. I think Slippy Toad would be from the Star Fox franchise, would be my video game avatar if I was choosing one. Because I think, like, he he is overtly annoying, but stealthily like
Right.
somebody you'd want in your corner, right? Like Slippy Toad doesn't give up.
Yeah. You know, I forget exactly how we got there and what the situation was, but there was a ranking that we were doing that Slippy Toad was in, and we like slotted him real low right away. And then like as the night went on, it was like, no, I think actually like Slippy's close
It's
to being
so annoying. I
MVP.
know.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. But so that's mine. What about you, Patrick?
so one thing that I discovered about myself this last week, so we have this plant, it's like a 7 or 8 foot tall Dracaena. It's like a little tree that lives in our apartment, um and has had like pretty minimal growth, and it's been here for years, right? Like we've had this thing for maybe 5 or 6 years, um and just over the last 2 weeks it started to flower, and so like this giant stem, like a 2 foot long stem with like flowers just like sprouted out of it, and uh put like a really it's very odorous, but not in a bad way, right?
Mm.
It's just it has a very like planty smell, um and it's something that like is strange, is not normally like I'm not a perfume kind of guy, but just like having this intense plant smell like in the little apartment, I was like, yes, this is maybe like a primal primordial part of me. So I'm gonna go with Swamp Thing. I'm gonna say Swamp Thing is my is my Mirage. Because also look, Swamp Thing is a scientist. A scientist. I like science.
Mm-hmm.
I like having a connection to nature. And now, just discovering that I have I also like the smell. I would love the smell of hanging out with Swamp Thing.
Well, plus Swamp Thing is a notorious deadhead, so checking all the boxes.
That's right. He follows him around on tour all summer. The winner, Mark, the winner of this code for Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp, FE, Encore, goes to Jason. Jason wrote in saying that his Mirage would be Kirby. Let me pull up his reasoning here. Jason said, my Mirage would be Kirby. Oh, he does not explain. He says thanks for the contest and and the awesome podcast. Again, not technically a contest, I don't think. I believe there are some
Definitely
laws
not.
or rules that apply to contests. This is a giveaway.
This is a lawless podcast.
That's that's right. All right. Congratulations, Jason, on your not win, but for getting this copy, this code. This was super fun. We also had Cindy Jean write in. She said that she was not interested in like entering the contest, but did want to tell us what her Mirage, who her Mirage would have been. She says, when you explained what a Mirage was, I knew exactly who fit the description. Dementio from Super Paper Mario for the Wii. One of the more obscure characters in the Mushroomverse, Dementio is a court magician under the evil Count Bleck. And then there's a part in here with spoilers, which I think I'm going to skip because I don't know. I don't have enough context for that game to know if they're like game ruining spoilers. But the explanation goes on. He is one of my favorite Nintendo characters and deserves more recognition than he gets. He has the powers of inhale, flight, so I guess like Kirby, teleportation, dimension flipping, reality warping, hypnosis, illusions, duplication, and general excellence in magic. He can even create explosions with a single snap and summon what I think are magic shurikens from his fingertips. This all made more dangerous by his immense intelligence and plan-making skills, which greatly exceeded that of the normal Nintendo villain. So,
Oh my
Cindy
gosh.
Jean, thank you. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a character that we need to know more about.
Yeah,
I
like
think.
possibly the most powerful character in the Nintendo universe.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to contend with there. Mark, we've got 2 more emails. Man, I pulled a lot of emails for us today. We have an email from Jonathan. Jonathan writes in and says, "Oh, this was just to address something that you and I did not agree on in a previous episode."
Mm.
He says, "Hi, Patrick and Mark. I just listened to your most recent episode. Apex Legends is a battle royale similar to Fortnite. I believe you were thinking of Valorant, which is a hero shooter similar to Overwatch." Mark, you and I do not have a solid handle on what is a battle royale and what is a hero shooter. So we'll probably get it wrong again in the future.
I think that's true. But I'm really glad that Jonathan wrote in because I think he was proving me correct. So those are my favorite types of emails.
Yeah, well, not just proving you correct, but kind of proving me a jerk too, because you said it was a battle royale. And I was like, I think it's a hero shooter, Mark, because the last time we were talking about something like that, I was right, but I was wrong in this. And this, I mean, I think pretty fair to say that neither of those are really either of our genres as it is.
Yeah, for sure.
And sort of on that topic, Colton wrote in saying he was listening to our Pokemon Snap episode and said, I heard you say you'd love to get into Overwatch, but that you're no good at first-person shooters and don't want to disappoint your team. Let the fact that Overwatch is a Don't let the fact that Overwatch is an FPS prevent you from enjoying the game. This is in no way like Call of Duty or Battlefield. So yes, there's more explanation here, but I'll go off the email a little bit here. I did play Overwatch for a couple weeks. Got intimidated using the more offensive characters and took on a healer role. I really liked playing as Lucio. But the other healer classes were fun for me too. And it is true that the game does find a way to make you feel useful and valuable, even if you are not good at getting headshots or like getting close with a shotgun like weapon, or even in setting traps and stuff. Like there are a lot of ways to demonstrate your value to your team, which is mostly what Colton is saying in this email. And I totally agree with that. I still didn't like having the pressure of not disappointing my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be a healer character, you got to like be in the right place to heal people. And is that maybe an extremely like dialed down level of stress from like everyone else? Yeah, absolutely. But I still felt it. All right. Thank you everyone for writing in. That's all very fun. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week.
So we got a review code from the publisher of a game that is coming out later this week called Space Otter Charlie, and I played through it this past week, and I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Okay, so before I say who I think should play this, I have to set the table a little bit, where it's like, you know how when you are recommending a band to somebody and you don't want to say like, oh, this band is like this other band, because they don't sound alike, but it's more like, if you enjoy this band, I think you will enjoy this other band, even though they don't necessarily like sound alike.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Sure. Premise granted.
Great.
Yes.
So I think that if you enjoyed Yoku's Island Express or a game like Celeste, I think you would enjoy Space Otter Charlie. Even though I can't stress this enough, they are not the same type of game. But I think if you enjoyed one, you would enjoy the other. So Space Otter Charlie is like a puzzle platformer, and it kind of reminded me of Yoku's Island Express because it has a like an interesting movement mechanic. It's not just like running and jumping. It's you're like an otter in outer space, and so you're in a 0G environment. So the way it works is you can kind of like you stick to a surface and then you aim using the analog stick, like the direction you want to go. And then you can like, you jump that direction, and you have a jetpack so you can like course correct and cruise a little bit. But that's your primary like method of movement.
Do you know what that's actually a lot like is an indie game that came out on Switch a couple years ago called Dandara. Has a very similar, there's no like jetpack to adjust it. You just have to like point to whatever surface you're headed to next and just like launch yourself in that direction.
Yeah.
And then you stick to walls and ceilings and stuff.
Oh yeah. So it's very similar to that. And it's really I found it like, I thought it was fun. And one thing that, that I got frustrated with Yoku's Island Express for me is like not knowing where I was going, or like knowing where I wanted to go, but like not being able to actually like engage the locomotion to get me there. But this game, like Space Otter Charlie, is much more. I would say like it's not hard. Like it's definitely like all audiences, intended for all audiences, because I think I beat the whole thing. I don't know exactly because I wasn't, but it's definitely between like 5 and 10 hours, and probably closer to
Okay.
5 than 10. And that was to I like pretty much 100% it. And so there was no time where I was like lost or I didn't know where I was supposed to be going, which to me was like so relaxing and nice because I hate not knowing where I'm supposed to go in video games.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun, or for me that was really fun. And so the challenge just comes from like, okay, like I need to execute this platforming, or I need to like defeat these enemies, and like I died, and so I have to like restart. But it's cute. Like the art style is cute. I think like the big thing was just I was surprised when it was over with, because the package that's there is like complete. There's unlockables. There's other animal, like there's weapon upgrades and like upgrades for your armor, and then you are like recruiting sea creatures to live on your spaceship while you guys are trying to find like a new planet to call home. So there's like stuff for you to do, but it is very much like, oh, like I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, like that was a complete package, but that was also like maybe 5 hours.
That's sort of satisfying though, like to finish a game and like be done with it in 5 hours in just a couple like sittings. That actually sounds wonderful. Let me ask you this: Space Otter Charlie, is that the main character, the character you're rescuing, or your enemy?
That's the main character. You are playing
Okay,
as an otter in outer space, and your name is Charlie.
got it, got it. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean it's the Mario, Zelda, Metroid question, right?
right, yeah.
main character, person you're rescuing, or the enemy.
But like it's a cute game. There's one some of the collectibles are like otter facts. So when you pick up like the item, it like
Amazing.
displays a fact about otters on the screen. Like it really is, I guess, just like a complete package. It has everything, but it is like s- short. Basically, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Short but enjoyable.
Um, I'll go next. Just queuing off of complete package. Because I'm playing Fire Emblem Fates, the Birthright playthrough on the 3DS.
Is that the
Um,
combination of the two games?
no, so Birthright is the like the version of the game where you go back to your original family. So the way the game is structured is and you have to buy either Conquest or Birthright like in
Oh,
like
okay.
that's the package you buy. And in Conquest you go back to the whole premise of the game is that you were taken from the Hoshidoan family by the Nor family, and so you spend a couple missions where you are fighting like as the Nor, but then the Hoshidoans like find you and like liberate you, and then there's this point where like it poses it like it's a choice, right? Like, but you've already purchased the version of the game that you're gonna, or I mean, there you can get like the complete package that is all of it, but that's literally buying the game twice. Like that is then an $80 package for a 3DS game. And so yeah, I just wanted to cue off of what you were saying about that being a complete package. What I'm playing right now feels very much like an incomplete package,
Mm.
because there is this like second version of the game that I could be playing that I feel like I'm missing out on a little bit, and just a ton of DLC in sort of the traditional Fire Emblem mode of there being just like little paralogs and uh series of side quests that you can like that are appear in like my lineup of things that I can address next, but then it's like, oh, by the way, that's $3.99, and I'm like, okay, no, I just
Oh.
want to like, and which isn't to say that like the game that is there is lacking. There is a ton of content that is there and that is free, and all of that, but it's just like I'm constantly being reminded that like there
Yeah.
is more I could be spending money on, which is a bizarre thing to experience when you're playing a full price game, right? But that being said, I started playing because we were talking about games that we wanted to get the Pokemon Snap treatment in the previous episode, and Fire Emblem was one of mine. And I was like, no, you know what? I also just I like the game. Like, why don't I go back to a Fire Emblem game that I enjoyed when I started, but never got very far in. And so that's what I'm doing. And I still do have the occasional experience where I get like deep into a battle, and I'm like, I've been playing a battle for like 25 minutes, and then like some extra knights, evil knights get added to the board and like kill 3 of my characters, and I'm like, nope, I'm losing all that progress. And I'm still too proud to put it on not permadeath, and I don't know why that is, especially as I'm asking for like a version of Fire Emblem where I can just like I could basically turn it into Pokemon Snap if I turned the difficulty way down and turned off permadeath and even just did the auto battle, but I refuse for whatever reason.
I actually didn't know that you could turn off permadeath in Fates. So could you do that in Awakening too? Like, is it something that's been in the series for a while?
I don't remember if you could do it in Awakenings. I think you probably can. I mean, I think that while permadeath is something that the Fire Emblem series is known for, they haven't made it something that you have to engage with for a while, But it's super cool. I'm really enjoying the story. The characters are really fun. I just married my main character to a ninja character, and they had a baby that they then sent into an alternate dimension to grow up. It's very strange, but very cool. And so yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. There is a character in the game who's like a fortune teller, who you can have them read like the quality of any 2 characters' relationship at a specific point in the game. But I almost feel like either my my radar for character relationships is way off, or the fortune teller is giving me the exact opposite of real information. Like, because he'll say things like, these 2 characters can't stand each other, and I'm like, what? They've got like a class S relationship. I think they're really good together, and then like they get married, and like, oh yeah, that's doomed. And then other characters that have never been with each other at all before, it's like, yep, they're soulmates. So I don't know what's happening here. Either I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm being lied to.
Is part of this game like you will be able to see if like you are correct, or if like the fortune teller is correct? Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think he's lying to me, which I think is a fun angle, but that also may not be the case, and I've just turned myself into a fortune-telling skeptic, which is true in real life. So I guess I'm just role-playing myself.
Do you remember how you chose the Birthright version of Fates when you had to choose between the 2 whenever you picked it up the first time?
No, because I picked it up when it came out. So I mean, I think the Birthright version is sort of like known as the easier version, or is the more like sort of open one, because in the Conquest version, you are going back to the like warring faction, and it's a much more offensive game, whereas Birthright is sort of more defensive, and you're sort of you're Conquest, you're playing the bad guy kind of, which can be super fun, but I thought that if I was going to play them all, that I was going to start with the good guy run.
I'm kind of glad that they haven't continued this like Pokemon like 2 versions of the game type thing going on.
Well, and then they also did a 3rd version, which is Revelations or something like that, which combined elements of the 2 campaigns, which I believe was not another like full $40, but I think it was like another 20 or something, and you still had to like purchase the base version of one of the other 2 games. So like it's a short line between picking the game up and spending $100 on it, which is brutal.
Well, I've also been playing Super Mario 3D World, and I'm not that far into it. I think I just beat the 3rd like train thing. It's in a castle, but none of the levels are actually castles. They're like trains.
A couple of them are castles. First one's definitely a castle.
The first one is a castle, yeah. I'm liking it. I'm finding it difficult to I think it's really interesting. Like before I had only played this game in multiplayer, either online with this most recent version of it, or like going over to your house and playing locally.
Yeah.
And I think like the mashup between like 2D style and Mario and 3D style Mario is really like academically interesting, but I don't know that I'm enjoying it all that much. To me, it's like uh and there are levels that I enjoy. There are times where it like really clicks. But for me, for whatever reason, like the control scheme, I just want it to be one or the other. Like it doesn't it's the
Mhm.
I feel like the controls because you have like more choice, I feel like I end up dying a ton more, which isn't like bad necessarily, but I just feel a little bit out of control when I'm controlling the characters. So I miss the kind of like locked in aspect of traditional 2D Mario.
Yeah.
But so then when I'm playing, it's like, okay, like I don't have like the control that I want, but maybe I have control of the camera. And it's like, no, you don't have control of the camera really either.
Yeah.
And so
This is definitely one where like don't try to control the
yeah,
camera.
yeah, but and so it's just which again, it's like sometimes for me works really well, and then other times I'm like, I just wish it was one or the other. Like I wish I could run around in either this like 3D space and let it be fully 3D, or I wish like it was just more of a traditional 2D Mario game in this like 3D world environment. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. It's weird. I've never. It actually reminds me most recently of playing Super Mario 64 as part of like 3D All Stars, where it's like, ooh, like there is stuff in here that I like, but there's a lot of stuff around it that I personally find frustrating.
I mean, I know you are addressing like fundamental issues about the game, but like Third World is really not deep enough in the game to
Yeah,
be in
I
love
think
with
that's
it yet.
fair. Sure.
Yeah. It's the later levels are so like the game gets so much like cooler and more interesting and more difficult as it goes. But you know, if the like fundamental way that you are interacting with it is feels incomplete now, it may continue to feel incomplete for you as you go forward. Um, who which characters are you using?
So I've actually been primarily using Luigi, which that's like another aspect of it that I haven't actually messed around with that much is trying it out with Toad or trying it out with like Princess and seeing like if there's like
Hmm.
one character or another who I like gravitate towards or like the control scheme of better. Um yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting game, and I played parts of 3D Land on the 3DS maybe like a couple of years ago, and I didn't finish the whole thing, and I don't remember having these same like um the same complaints or like the same like issues with 3D Land. So I don't know. Maybe
You
it's
really
just
like
something.
that circle pad,
Yeah, yeah. I guess I just
the thumb
like
pad. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. It's I'm definitely going to continue playing it because I want to get further into it. I want like because I agree that like I feel like I'm only seeing the surface level stuff right now, but it's just
Yeah.
interesting to like have this experience with a Mario game where it's like, oh, like I don't innately love this. Like what's going on?
Man, Mark, I want you to know I'm working really hard to not just like to like understand your experience because I love this game. Um, but I understand it's not going to be for everyone. I will reiterate the advice that I gave you about Super Mario 64 is do not try to wrestle the camera.
Yeah.
You know, even when you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I wish I had control over it, trying to like the little bit of control they give you is not enough to make up for the fact that they basically know what they're doing when they show you what they show you. Um, but yeah, that can be when you have camera control and then someone's like, no, don't do it. I understand where that could be unsatisfying.
I mean, there's a lot of it that makes me laugh because like a lot of it is just so darn cute. Like of course like Luigi being in his cat version is adorable, and when they're like walking around and it's making like the tink 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 sounds like
Oh my god.
like it's so cute. Like the game like
Yep.
that attention to detail, the music is amazing. Like there's so much that I do like about it. And again, that's why it's like kind of weird. It feels like a mirror universe because there are people who just like don't particularly like Mario games. They've never played a Mario game. Like Mario's just not their thing, and I have never been that person. And so to be like on like in this weird like It's a Wonderful Life version where it's like, but like oh like
Yeah, sure.
I'm not like
We
fully
descend an
into this
angel over there.
yeah, exactly. It's just been it's been interesting. It's been interesting.
I mean, I will also say that if you are finding any of the controls to be like less intuitive, that may also be a little bit of a Luigi issue, um, because he is a little bit slipperier. His jump is a little bit like higher and has that like sort of narrower arc than the rest of them. Mario feels way more like Mario, and the princess has like obviously that nice little like corrective glide, and is also just generally slower, so she's easier to control. I will, especially in the Switch release of this game, will confess that Toad is too fast for me. He
Oh,
moves
okay.
too fast, and it is tough to wrap my head around, like where he is and like in the space fast enough to like react. And so I will run off the stage a lot as Toad.
Yeah, that's my like main problem. Like it's this weird like Z-axis thing where it's like I feel like I'm falling off the edge all the time, and I think it's because I'm treating it like in some ways like I'm just treating it like a 2D Mario game where it's like okay, if I make this leap, like of course I'm going to land on this platform because I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about like depth, but that's definitely not the case here. Like you're like and I kind of wish at least in these earlier levels, I wish they were holding my hand a little bit more where it's like, no, we're not going to let you fall off the edge. Because I feel like I'm falling off the edge all the time and I'm not getting better. I don't know.
Well, as always, Mark, if you need an online buddy to play with, I am always here and always ready to play Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, for sure. We should do that again.
All right, well, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, March 16th, Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is released on Switch. So this is an Xbox RPG that is being re-released, and I just thought that was interesting. I've never played this game. I don't know that much about it. But it was like an Xbox RPG that I had never heard of, which I don't know. I just thought was unique.
Yeah, I mean, like interestingly enough, there's another release today, which is Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse, which is also formerly an Xbox game finding its way onto the Switch. Kingdoms of Amalur is sort of like a Skyrim, like
Yeah, that's like the vibe I
um,
get from it.
that I know, like I know it by reputation of like it is a game that like people slept on, but is still fun or whatever. I don't know. There's a 0% chance that I get into it on Switch.
Also today, RBI Baseball 21 is released for Switch. And then on Thursday, March 18th, Space Otter Charlie, the game I was talking about earlier, is released. And then on Friday, March 19th, Hades, the physical version, is released for Switch. And then also Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville Complete Edition, which we saw at the most recent Nintendo Direct, is released. This is the first Frostbite engine game on Switch, which is kind of interesting that they went through all the trouble of porting a version of Frostbite engine. Do you think that this means that we will potentially see more EA games that run on Frostbite engine to Switch, or do you think that this was just kind of like a game that they felt matches the Switch's audience, and so that's why they brought it over?
I mean, I think that is definitely the latter is definitely the case, but I don't know if it's exclusively the case, right? If that's like the only reason, that maybe they will also be bringing other games that they think the audience will respond to. But I mean, and anytime we talk about EA and bringing games to Switch, like Plants vs Zombies, like fine, that one makes sense, but it's also like where's the Sims? Like what are we doing here? Like
Well,
we can have other conversations that start other places, but or that go other places, but why aren't we starting with The Sims?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like, because we don't even have a regular tower defense Plants vs Zombies game on the Switch.
Yeah.
It's this like third person shooter, first person shooter. I'm actually can't remember which one this is.
Now this is a battle royale or a hero shooter. We're not sure.
Yeah.
Oh geez.
But I think it's interesting to do all of the work because I was reading an interview on Nintendo Everything with one of the producers or developers of the Switch version of the game, and like they contracted with another studio, I think like Q-Lock or something like that, to help port the Frostbite engine to Switch. So it was clearly not like a simple process, and so to go through all of that for this specific game like is an interesting choice. And so not that I think like like Battlefront or anything like that is going to come to Switch, but it just makes me curious to see like, well, what does the next version of like FIFA look like? Is it the Legacy Edition again, or is it running some version of like Frostbite?
Yeah, and like Battlefront definitely, you're right. That does feel like kind of a weird fit, but like I don't know, Jedi Fallen Order would crush on Switch, right? Like if it worked. It barely worked on the PlayStation and Xbox, so maybe that is a fantasy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The EA support for Nintendo platforms is always strange to me because it's a real chicken and the egg situation, right? Like they don't bring their best games or the best version of their games to the Switch, so they don't sell well on the Switch, so they stop bringing games to this. Like I see exactly why it happens, and it's just like, well, okay, maybe we can just get those games on other platforms.
And then also, Square Enix is having a sale on the eShop right now. And when I was looking at the list, I had to stop myself from like buying some of these games, not because I have any intention of playing them anytime soon, but I just felt that like collector's need where it's like, but then I would have all of them. Like Collection of Mana is $20 instead of 40. Final Fantasy 9 is like 10.50 instead of $21, which like what is that really how much Final Fantasy 9 usually is?
Yeah, they've got some weird prices. That Final Fantasy 9, like you say, is normally $21. Final Fantasy 7 is normally $16. It's priced down to 8 here, which is great. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm seeing a lot of like. And the Dragon Quest games have been discounted before, and I know they're just like mobile versions of them, so they're not like the ideal versions. But like I don't know, there's a lot on here that I think I will play at some point. This is back to our backlog situation, right? Of like maybe we need to sit ourselves down and say, am I really gonna play Final Fantasy X/Final Fantasy X-2 HD remaster? Probably not. Is it only $25? Yeah, it is.
Well, if you're interested in any Square Enix games, I would check out their sale on the eShop because a lot is on sale right now, and it's a pretty good deal. And Patrick, I think we have to be strong and tell each other not to buy some of these games that we probably will never get to. But it's like, do I want to play or do I want to own Final Fantasy VIII Remastered? Like, kind of. Will I ever play it? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Like, I will definitely buy Final Fantasy VII for $8. I mean, that's a no lose situation for me. Except for it's a lose $8 situation,
right? Yep.
And I can do that. I can lose $8. All right. That is the new releases and the Square Enix sale. Mark, let's close out this segment. Which brings us to a regular segment on the show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. I am starting the recording of 433 right now. Our suggestion today comes from Martin. He suggested it back for our 433 episode a couple weeks ago. He says, rank the best ways to make coffee. So, Mark, I think first thing we need to determine is what are the ways to make coffee? I think there's the obvious, like, you just brew it in like a regular coffee pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a coffee mate kind of thing. Um, so I would say that for me that's mostly how I make coffee.
I don't drink coffee all that often, and so like I don't like make coffee really. I usually buy it if I'm getting it somewhere. So like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know that much about coffee. So I like there's like drip coffee, like you're talking about for like coffee mates. There's
Mm-hmm.
like French press, which I've
French
heard of,
press,
but
yeah.
I don't actually understand. Like
So
intuitively, I
French,
know you're
yeah.
not like squeezing the beans, but that is what it sounds like.
I mean, it's a little bit more like tea. Is like the way that the process ends up working is that you are just mixing the ground up beans and water and hot water in like a tube for a couple minutes, and then you push down the plunger, which separates the grounds from the water.
Oh, got it. That makes so much sense.
So those are both good ways to make coffee, and they're both like pretty quick and easy. I would say another way to make coffee, and this is technically making an americano, is pulling a shot of espresso from like an espresso machine, and then just adding hot water to that,
Yeah, I mean,
because that's all an americano is. Yeah.
are we just counting espresso as like a way to prepare coffee?
I think in that way, yeah, because like there are a lot of places that don't have like other methods of making coffee that will just pull a shot or two of espresso and fill the rest of the cup up with hot water, and
But
just
I
that's
mean,
their coffee.
I know that espresso is like different, but also it's the same, right? It's just
Yeah, yeah, correct.
like hot water passing through like coffee beans.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, this is a great point. Is ways to make coffee? Does that mean like drinks that are coffee, or just like the genuinely the ways to make coffee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Like are we
So
like
like does is a latte different?
right? Or yeah, cuz really is there only one way to make coffee, which is water and beans, and then like what you do
Yeah,
with it
number 1.
after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, ooh, I mean we've got ourselves some like existential coffee questions here. And the thing is that, like what I thought we were going to get to was to the uh you know from espresso, French press, or drip coffee.
Got it.
That
Got
those are
it.
like
Okay.
the
Okay.
three big ways to make coffee. And then each of those has the variation of, do you grind the beans, use the grounds right away, or are they pre-ground, or do you like grind them up a couple days in advance? Like, do you buy full bean, or are you so I think each one of those has both variations
I
in
think
there.
let's just stick with ranking drip, espresso,
Hmm.
and French press. I think that is our clearest shot to victory.
Okay, great. So I think, look, I love the way an Americano tastes. I love the experience of an Americano. No one has oh, we're missing the pods. Um,
Oh, of course.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, you're right. Yep, Keurig,
yeah.
like a Keurig
What are
machine.
those called? A Keurig, yes.
Yeah.
So we gotta throw Keurig on there. Um, my least favorite in in both drinking the cup of coffee and in making it. I find the process to be a little intimidating, and I hate how much waste it makes.
Well, I mean, it's definitely I get the appeal for somebody like me who's not a coffee drinker. I don't have like a coffee machine at
Right.
home or anything where it's just like, yes, like let me just pop this pot in and like boom, go, like coffee magically appears. I definitely get like I understand the appeal.
Um, okay. I regret to inform you that our recording of 433 has ended. There was no applause at the end of it. So I guess we'll never know. We talked about how to make coffee.
I think the gist of it came across.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we were accompanied today by a pianist named Joanna Gamma. I apologize that there was no applause at the end of this, but I just wanted to shout out that I think this is the first time we've used this recording. Um, one of the 6 comments on this video is, "Why is it called 433?" Obviously not a listener of Nintendo Cartridge Society. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
We'll break out the abacus because it's time for some sales data. That's right. The NPD Group's U.S. sales data for February 2021 was released, and the Nintendo Switch was again the best-selling hardware platform in both units and dollars in February. They also report that unit and dollar sales of Nintendo Switch hardware in February were the highest for any hardware in a February month since the Nintendo Wii in February 2009.
Very good.
And total lifetime dollar sales of Switch hardware are now higher than the Nintendo DS. So this is where it gets like a little weird because the NPD Group now reports things by revenue, like like dollar sales instead of units sold. So as far as like actual hardware moved, I think the Switch for like as far as Nintendo consoles go, the Switch is only behind the Nintendo DS, the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. Nintendo like groups those together for whatever reason, and the Wii. And the Switch has sold about 80 million units right now, so has about 20 million more to sell until it passes the Wii, which has sold about 100 million. So like potentially this next year, which is super crazy.
Well, so wait a minute. It is still behind the DS in terms of unit sales,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
It's just by dollar sales that is overtaken.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Which obviously the DS was way less expensive than a Switch. The still the base model of the Nintendo Switch, the one that is mostly available, is still $300.
Yeah. As far as software goes, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury was the best-selling game during the reporting period. But the thing which is cool, but the thing that stuck out to me is like Little Nightmares 2 was the sixth best-selling game, which is so crazy to me because like I remember when the first game was shown off for like I think it existed before, but it was ported to Switch in some like Indie World Showcase
like
or
part.
Yeah, and then to me it just looked like this like weird, creepy, Tim Burton-esque like nightmare game, and then the second one just seemingly to me came out of nowhere. Clearly my gaming horizons are very narrow, apparently.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those interesting things where you're like, oh yeah, there's you turn over a rock and discover that there's a whole community that's been striving under there, and that obviously games that don't have necessarily like an obvious home anywhere else, like a smaller game or an indie game or something that is like stylized and platformy or whatever this game is, has a home more or less de facto on Switch.
Bloomberg, speaking of sales data, Bloomberg reporter Takashi Mochizuki published an article stating that Nintendo and its partners are targeting a record fiscal year 2021, which runs from April to the end of March next year. According to this,
targeting records. That's bold. That's some dangerous talk right there, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna break records.
Yeah, well, so like the premise of this article is that most analysts are expecting a decline for the Switch in like hardware and software sold because you can't replicate the explosion that happened in 2020
right
around like the pandemic and everything. But according to this article, Nintendo's partners expect game sales to top 250 million units in the next fiscal year. So the article says, quote, a series of marquee game releases is expected to drive software sales next fiscal year to 250 million units, far more than the record 205 million units forecast for the current year, according to the partners and suppliers, speaking anonymously as the plans are not public. So a series of marquee games.
I mean, that is obviously intriguing as all get out, because like right now we don't know what those marquee games would be, other than I guess we have a Pokemon remake coming out. We've got this Pokemon Legends, which is due out early next year, which will probably be within this financial year. So that tracks. I guess maybe Monster Hunter, possibly definitely two Monster Hunter games, Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2, are both in that. But that still feels to me shy of like I don't know, and maybe this is just me hyping myself up, hearing multiple marquee titles. That gets my blood boiling, Mark. Like that
Yeah,
gets me
no.
like I'm excited.
Well, okay, if we want to read too much into things, here's another quote from it
Let's do it.
saying, software developers similarly are prioritizing the Switch for their upcoming game releases as the console is almost certain to surpass the 100 million units sold threshold, assuring a large audience of potential customers. So, does that mean that third party
Yeah.
games are in the mix as marquee titles as well?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and so maybe this just comes down to a numbers game, that there simply are going to be more Switches in people's homes through the 21-22 fiscal year than there were in the 2021 fiscal year, right? That they have more or less solved the availability problem, and people are actually able to buy them and therefore buy more games for them, especially in a year where the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5s are still hard to get.
Yeah, yeah, that could totally be true. I mean, there are some like tantalizing rumors out there for third-party games that haven't been revealed yet that are supposedly coming this year. Like, there is supposedly a major Resident Evil title that is coming, like at least initially exclusively for Switch, to be revealed after Village is released. That's going to be like its own thing, and so like that is potentially, as somebody who enjoys Resident Evil, like that's potentially very exciting. So I don't. I mean, like, is Breath of the Wild 2 something that could come out this fiscal year or next fiscal year? Because like you said, the financial year goes until the end of March 2022. So even if
Right.
like Breath of the Wild 2 didn't come out this fall, what if it came out in March, like early March, like the original Breath of the Wild did? Um so I don't know. The all of this is like very tantalizing, especially after we just got this major Nintendo Direct that didn't really tell us much about, Nintendo's year. Uh I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's not fair. It did tell us quite a bit of like the first half of it, but anything after June is pretty much still a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is so interesting. Like they're obviously holding, not obviously, but it is my theory that they're holding more Zelda announcements until after the Skyward Sword actually comes out, which I
Mhm.
believe is July, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, So like, we'll probably know more about that. And maybe all of the third party things that we've already mentioned, the Pokemon stuff, um, Skyward Sword, whatever other re-releases they're gonna do there, um, plus Mario Golf, plus like one or two other sort of medium level Nintendo things. Like maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe we don't need another like mind blower for this to be like a really good year for Nintendo, right? Like we may be overvaluing a Mario Odyssey or a Breath of the Wild or an Animal Crossing or even a like Fire Emblem 3 like it may not need to be some like catastrophically big game.
Yeah, I think that's true. You could potentially get there with like a number of like triples instead of trying to hit like a grand
Yeah.
slam. So yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see. Again, it feels very much like the way this article is written, it does not feel to me that the author of it like knows what these big marquee releases are necessarily. Just that people are talking as if that is the reason why these games are going to be released. So it feels like speculation on both sides. As far
Yeah.
as hardware goes, the article basically notes that like a Switch revision is coming later this year, and they base that on the reporting from Bloomberg News. So, so the article says that the hardware will match 2020 or potentially rise. Again, those are like big. Those are big goals. Like Switch in its
Yeah.
like man, I guess this is its fifth year, fourth year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Started 2017. So this, yeah, fourth year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is just like hitting its stride and could have like a like huge year. Like it's kind of crazy. Like back in February when the president of Nintendo was like, "Yeah, we think the Switch is at its mid life cycle point." It's just kind of nuts to think about that. Yeah, it has been out for so long, and it really still feels fresh. Like it feels like it's just
Yeah.
barely beginning to take off.
Yeah, it feels like it is still a vital platform. Um, but like it's so interesting to think of like the 2019 that it had felt like there were a lot of again sort of to use your terminology from earlier, like a lot of great triples. Um, and some that maybe even edged into inside the park home runs like Luigi's Mansion or Fire Emblem. Um, but like there were just a lot of games that had like a really high profile and that people were excited about, whereas this last year was really just Animal Crossing. There was other stuff too, but like Animal Crossing was the marquee title, whereas the year before had multiple. And I just like Nintendo always goes through these like it's feast and famine, right? And I wonder if we're like on the precipice of another feast.
Yeah, that's true. I also think our like what we consider like home runs is kind of skewed because I think like Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which I was very excited for, but doesn't have like the
Yeah.
cultural cash of a Breath of the Wild 2, still sold like 10 million units, like something like that. So even
Right.
those like triples are
Well, and
in
yeah,
some regards just like the crazy
yeah.
successful.
I mean, even Pikmin 3 Deluxe sells over 1 million copies. So, like, what do
Yeah.
what do we know?
Yeah. Back in 2017, Dark Horse announced a partnership with Nintendo to publish graphic novels based in the ARMS universe, and they were originally planned to debut in fall 2018. There was even a sampler that was published for Free Comic Book Day in 2018, but obviously those didn't actually come to pass. And over the past few years, we've gotten like periodic updates saying that the novels were delayed, but were still happening. However, it seems that they are now indeed completely canceled. The website of writer In Flynn, who wrote the Free Comic Book Day preview, has been updated to state that the original plans for the series have been scrapped. Dark Horse hasn't shared anything official, but at this point, it seems like the ARMS graphic novel universe killed in the crib, never going to
Yeah.
see the light of day.
Yeah, and I mean that while we don't have anything official, like hearing something from Ian, he's currently writing on the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, and has been doing so for a while, and I mean all of which is to say is that he is a good like herald or like shepherd of IP. He knows what he can say and he knows what he can't say. He knows when something is still sort of alive and he knows when something is dead. So if Ian Flynn is telling you, yeah, the original plans have been scrapped and can't elaborate on what's coming next, probably means it's dead in the water.
I'm so curious about this. I would love to find a copy of like the comic book day preview because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really curious what this was going to be.
Yeah, I've interviewed Ian before. I wonder, maybe I can reach out to him and see if he can share anything. Probably can't share anything, but it would be fun. It would be fun to know.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Get one of those NCS exclusives that everybo's always
Ooh,
talking
yeah.
about. Square Enix is
We are a
hosting
news
streaming
breaking organization. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just to
no,
dump on us.
no. It's true. People still turn to us for Billy Mitchell updates. So Square
No
Enix
relation.
is no relation. Square Enix is hosting a streaming presentation on Thursday, March 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's going to be a 40-minute broadcast featuring upcoming games from Square Enix and sister company Taito. I'm actually not sure how much of this will be like Nintendo related. I know Balan Wonderland is going to be present because that game is coming out actually I think the same day as Monster Hunter Rise. So we're praying for you, Balan Wonderland. Other featured titles include more information on an all new Life is Strange, Outriders, Marvel Avengers, Tomb Raider 25th Anniversary, some new Square Enix Montreal games, and then Just Cause Mobile. So again, maybe some surprises, but not a ton there that has been announced that's Nintendo related. I do wonder if we'll see something for like Tomb Raider's 25th anniversary, maybe like a collection or something that comes to Switch.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Of like the newer trilogy that came out on, wow, I guess would that have been PS3?
I think it
that
was.
generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then maybe the most recent one was like an Xbox One exclusive. At least it was like a timed exclusive, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, one of them definitely was. Yeah.
I would actually be more interested if it was like a classic collection. The new games I did not enjoy.
Well, you and I played the first of the new ones for a couple hours, and like sort of had a good time, right?
We had a good time, but like the game is like absurdly violent, I thought.
Yeah, and like self-serious about its violence
Like
as well.
remember when she's like you like are careening down a river and then you die because you didn't get out of the way of some
Oh
debris,
yeah.
so you get like impaled like a bamboo through your eye. It was like nuts. It was just totally, it felt out of control to me.
Well, and I think she gets impaled on stuff even when you do it right. Like that's just part of the narrative of the game. Lara Croft gets impaled by stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think my like dream wish list for this would be, more PlayStation and specifically Super Nintendo era Square Enix games coming to Switch. I just want another way to play Final Fantasies 2, 3, and Chrono Trigger. And I know we're never going to see Secret of Evermore on another platform, but let's bring it to Switch. You have any other hopes for this one, Mark?
I mean, I'm right there with you. I would just really like to see Chrono Trigger playable on Switch, and part of me feels like, oh, maybe I should just I should track down a DS uh cartridge of the DS port and just have it with my 3DS,
Yeah.
because for me that's like the definitive version of that game, and I feel like if we got it for Switch it would probably be like the PC port of like the mobile version, like that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know how interested I am in playing that. When I go back to Chrono Trigger, I really want to like recapture my memories of playing it, and so
Totally.
I mean, honestly, I would probably pick up any version of Chrono Trigger that they, and if they release Chrono Cross, that would be awesome because I've never played that game, and
Oh, yes.
I know that it has like a mixed reputation, but like I feel far enough away from it at this point that like I would just be
Mhm.
curious to experience it in general.
Well, and Chrono Cross is a game of excesses, right? Like there's too much of everything. Um, and just if DC movie fans can be excited about a Snyder cut of Justice League, which will almost certainly be an exercise in excesses, then Square Enix fans can also be excited about Chrono Cross.
Sometimes it's what you want.
Sometimes you just want too much of something.
Yeah.
What do you think the likelihood is that we will get any Dragon Quest announcements during this presentation?
I think it's slim. Like looking at the list of games that they have, it feels
Pretty packed already.
and not just packed, but it feels very like from their Western studios or Western focused. Like it doesn't seem like a showcase for whatever their Japanese studios are working on. So I will kind of actually be surprised if we get those sort of like classic Square Enix titles mixed in with this.
Yeah.
Finally, last week, a trailer for a new retro-style Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat-em-up game was revealed. The game is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and it looks, to my eye, like just how I remember the arcade game looking.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It looks an awful lot like the same graphical fidelity as Turtles in Time in the arcade specifically. Um, Mark, I'm so excited about this. Like, this is so in my wheelhouse, like a retro beat 'em up, a Ninja Turtles thing. I'm obviously a huge Ninja Turtles guy. I love that they are sort of picking up that the Turtles have been through so many different like iterations and so many different looks and styles. And they're really going back to that the 1987 Fred Wolf animated series, like sort of the big famous one. There've been 3 other animated series since then, right? But like that is the one that is sort of lodged in my brain all the time. But they've one of the things that you forget about 80s animated series is that the animation is terrible. Like they cut a ton of corners. Things are minimally animated. Nothing really looks all that good. But like they really animated the heck out of these characters. They've sort of like slimmed their bodies a little bit to like give them a little bit more, make them look less like just weird circles on the screen. Mark, did you see this? The GIF of all of them running, of all 4 turtles running at once,
I
and
don't
they all
think
have
so.
different like oh man, Michelangelo is like he's leaning back and like pumping his fists, and the nunchucks are just like flying around. Donatello's got like his bow like all the way back and is sort of like running head down. Um, Raphael's got like the size in front of him and he's sort of like pumping his fists, and everyone moves at a different speed, and like you can see the personalities of everyone. It seems like there's just such attention to and like excitement about the details of the individual turtle characters, and it's just awesome to see that through the lens of games that anytime you revisit like beat 'em ups, right? And especially for 2021, like they require so many other like tweaks to what those games actually are, because those games are just quarter muncher games, right? Like they're meant to make you put in more money to get more continues. And for a game like that to exist now, it needs to be something more, right? You need to be driven by more than just like, you know, where can I put my next quarter? So like just seeing all of that and seeing the art and them like revisiting this has me super excited for this game.
Yeah, just from like the what struck me about like the trailer and what I saw was that I'm sure if I watched footage of the old arcade game that I remember and this side by side, that like this would look so much more sophisticated with like the animations and everything. But like it does a really great job of capturing what my memory says that original arcade game would look like, which I think is like when you are doing these retro projects, what you always hope for. And the pedigree of this one, like, it's developed by Tribute Games, who most recently developed the retro-looking game Panzer Paladin. But some members of the team are former Ubisoft developers that worked on Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, which of course is another like retro-inspired beat 'em up that has that's held in high regard.
Yeah, and you know, but part of what makes it special is that it has you know, like a leveling up and item purchasing system, and sort of a cool like overworld map to interact with the multiple playable characters that are all different, which I think is something that does get lost in other Ninja Turtles games that or others that are in the beat 'em up style, where all the characters are sort of identical. Something the original TMNT on the NES actually did a great job of distinguishing the four characters. But yeah, so I mean I can't wait to see what they do with this. And like the like speaking to your that this like sort of is what our minds like thought the original games were. That to me is sort of personified by in the trailer they used a version of the original series theme song as sung by Faith No More's Mike Patton, which, you know, like the original song is like a super cheesy like 80s thing, and they didn't change it that much for Patton to sing it, but like it sounds so much cooler, and like the, you know, the rhythm's a little different, and like it's Faith No More's voice, so like it just like it's taking the idea of the original thing and just like polishing it up, making it cooler, giving it some credibility, and like re-delivering it.
No release date given or technically platforms announced. All we know is that it's coming to PC and consoles. It seems like a good fit for the Switch, but we have license to talk about it until they tell us it is not coming to Switch. So
yeah, so it's, I mean, we're in real danger just then of, you know, spending 10 minutes talking about a game that will not come to Switch. But I mean, if they're saying PCs and consoles and it's like a retro style game, like why would it not come to Switch?
Yeah, totally. Completely agree.
All right. That is the news. Let's close this out. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. It helps us tremendously when you do that. We like to get out into new ears whenever possible. So tell your friends, I guess is what I'm saying. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, thanks for listening, my fellow deadheads.
Ever wanted to hear from the neighbor at 9 Cloverfield Lane? Or what if I told you that Dr. Loomis's worst patient wasn't Michael Myers? I'm Adam Peacock, host of the podcast My Neighbors Are Dead. Join me each week as I talk to the lesser-known characters from your favorite horror films. Each week is an all-new, fully improvised journey into the unknown, featuring friends and luminaries from the worlds of comedy, horror, and beyond.
New episodes every Tuesday on Campfire Media. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
Campfire.